Negrita de mis pesares, como se pone volando, negrita de mis pesares, como se pone volando, a todos diles que sí, pero no les digas cuándo así me dijiste a mí, por eso vivo penando.
All right, clap it up, clap it up. I'm Priest and Officer Ashar Gapan of the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge under Commanding General Yohana. The ISUPK started out of 1 West 125th Street right here in Harlem, New York. And since 1969, blacks, Hispanics, so-called blacks, so-called Hispanics, so-called Native Indians, we've been teaching the word of God correctly and according to the Bible. We've been proving that so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives are the real 12 tribes of Israel. We are the real Jews, all right? And today is Monday class, and what do we do every Monday? That's correct. We do history class every Monday. And joining me today, I have Priest and Officer Aisha Yala holding down the computer work. What's going on, Aisha?
Shalom.
How's your day?
It's going.
It's going?
It's going.
You look like you've been out there having an adventure.
Every day is an adventure in my life.
Okay. What's going on? And also we got Trooper Sha'afwan. What's going on? How's your day so far? So what? Okay. You ready for history? Are you ready for history class? He's psyched. He's pumped. He's ecstatic. And I'm the one that's drinking the energy drink. All right, so let's do this. Check it out. So what was yesterday? Does anyone know what yesterday was? All around America, because America seems to, take on people's cultures and exploded all over the place. Does anyone know what yesterday was?
Cinco de Mayo.
Yes, ding, 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 ding. Yesterday was Cinco de Mayo. Now, growing up here in America, what did you hear about Cinco de Mayo? What did you think Cinco de Mayo was?
A day where white people love to drink in public.
Yes. That's correct. Sha'ath one. A drinking day, right? Growing up here in New York City all my life, I thought Cinco de Mayo was Mexicans' Independence Day. That's what I thought. And from when I was young to when I got able to drink, we would just go out, party, eat tacos, and see a bunch of white people, getting drunk and dressing in sombreros and wearing, all types of hats and stuff, a drinking day for white people. That's what it has become here in America. That's what it is known for here in America. Sadly, the actual indigenous people of Mexico, they too may not know what Cinco de Mayo actually is, and how unimportant it is to the indigenous people of Mexico. Now, you may think, well, what do you mean? Well, just like here in the United States, where white people came over, colonized the entire landmass, invaded and took over land. The white people that were born here in America ended up fighting against their cousins and relatives who were born in mainland England and Scotland and Ireland. Just like in Mexico, the Spaniards that were born in Mexico ended up fighting against their cousins and relatives born in mainland Spain. And that is why we had the Revolutionary War between Mexico, New Spain, against Spain, because the Spaniards that were born in Spain the Spaniards that were born in Mexico and have become locals or so-called the New Mexicans, right, were fighting for their independence from the Spaniards, their relatives born in mainland Spain. Now, fast forward a couple like 50 years, we have the Battle of Pueblo, where the same Spaniards who were born here in Mexico are now fighting against the French who came to invade and take over Mexico. So it's still white people that are fighting against white people. Excuse me. And what I'm trying to hint at is real Mexicans, the real natives of the landmass of Mexico, they're still not free. Mexico is still not free. As long as the babies of these Spaniards born and married into families here in Mexico are still ruling, as long as white people are still ruling Mexico and governing Mexico, the real people of Mexico, the indigenous people of Mexico, will never be free. As long as America, the United States, still holds California, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, still holds these territories, Mexico is still not free. So what we're going to dive into today is we're going to go into some of the history of Cinco de Mayo, talk about one or two of the major players and who these people really are. All right. So if you can, Baba Kasha. Okay, that was Yashikar Banyashikar, the camp leader of Mexico, texting me. If you can share the first tab that's there. Yep, presents. Nope, right there, perfect. And we're gonna use this article from Tallahassee Democrat, right? And we're gonna talk about it. Go ahead, read, please.
What is Cinco de Mayo? Holiday's origins and why it's celebrated in the U.S.
So let's get into it.
Cinco de Mayo is one of the most recognized Mexican holidays in the United States. It's when people search for half-price margaritas and feast on Mexican food.
Right? Because you get two for the price of one margaritas, right? But it costs like $5, $3, right? And then you get those nice tacos. You get the nice fruit snacks with the tamarind on it, right? And the tajin, right? You go all these carnivals, get these cheap Mexican food, and you just eat tacos and drink beer all day and take shots of tequila. Keep going.
But Cinco de Mayo, which translates to 5th of May in Spanish, isn't actually about burritos and beer.
You would have thought it was, with all the promotion that you see on TV, in the streets, right? Keep going.
And while it is celebrated in Mexico, it's not as deeply ingrained in the national culture as it is in the United States.
And who knows why? Why isn't Cinco de Mayo as popular in Mexico as it is in the United States? Anyone have a guess? Anyone? Let's go to the StreamYard to see if anyone has a guess. Why, for anyone that's watching this, why is Cinco de Mayo more popular? A so-called Mexican holiday. Why is it more popular in the United States than it is in Mexico? Someone take a guess. Shawfom, what do you think? Why do you think it's more popular in the United States? Excuse me.
Everyone's culture. So.
No, you're absolutely right. Anything else? Aisha?
Because the white man is the devil.
Our oppressor is the diabolical beast that the Bible speaks of. That is true for almost every single thing in life. The two of the main reasons that I have been able to deduce this down to is because, one, during the Civil War here in America, this became an idea or an event that was accepted by the Union forces, right? Because during the Battle of Puebla, which we're going to get into, the French were the ones that were fighting against the Mexican army, and the French were also the ones that were providing aid to the South. So imagine this war where Mexicans win and how it would boost the morale for the Union fighting the South. We all know the South had all these resources, and the North didn't have that much access to food, goods, and stuff, because all the raw materials that they were used to make clothing, that they can make food out of, will come from the South. So this was kind of like a morale boost, right? And then the people that lived in the area of Mexico, like Mexico City and Puebla, a lot of those Mexicans immigrated to places like Chicago, to places like San Diego, to places like right here in New York City. So they carried those traditions to these areas, which, of course, America is going to just gobble it all up and incorporate it into its assimilation pot, right? So those are the two reasons that I can conclude on why it's so big here in America and not as big as it is in Mexico. Please keep going.
In Mexico, Cinco de Mayo is primarily observed in the state of Puebla, where the historic Battle of Puebla took place. It commemorates the Mexican victory over the French Empire on May 5th, 1862.
During the same times as the Civil War.
However, it's often misunderstood as Mexico's Independence Day, which is celebrated. It's often misunderstood as Mexico's Independence Day.
You know why? Because no one really knows no one in America really knows what Cinco de Mayo really was and what happened on that day, and the events that transpired the days before and after. So they just assume, like we did growing up, Cinco de Mayo is Mexico, the day Mexico got its independence. I was literally told that by my Spanish teacher, Miss Prager, in high school. So like Miss Prager was a definition of a Spaniard, and I would make fun of her face whenever she would laugh. She would do like some face. I would always make fun of her, Miss Prager, She literally told the class this was Mexico's Independence Day. Shout out to Miss Prigger, you liar. Please continue.
Despite its significance in Mexican history, Cinco de Mayo holds more importance in the United States. But why? Here is everything you need to know about Cinco de Mayo.
Let's get into it.
Mexican Independence Day, or Dia de la Independencia, came on September 16th, 1810.
So like 50 years earlier was the actual independence for Mexico, when Mexico got its independence from Spain. But keep in mind, this was the Spaniards, white people born in Mexico, who wanted independence from their relatives living in Spain. So it's not really Mexico's independence. It's Spaniards living in Mexico who got their independence from Spain, kind of like with the American Revolution. White people in America wanted their independence from the tyranny of England. They didn't want to pay all these high taxes for tea and everything else. It's the same thing that happened in Mexico. Please continue.
Cinco de Mayo came more than 50 years later when French Emperor Napoleon III wanted to claim Mexico for himself.
Now, this isn't Napoleon Bonaparte, the one that we read about in the French Revolution and all that. This is like, I believe, his nephew or something like that. Napoleon III. Keep going.
The French sent troops to force Mexico's President Benito Juarez and the government out of Veracruz.
Now, so just to give you a little backdrop, right? So once Mexico was able to get their independence from Spain, right? Mexico was having great difficulty trying to pay their world debt. So, you know, like every country that gains independence, they have a debt because of import-export businesses. They had a debt to England. They had a debt to Spain. They had a debt to France. And England, Spain, and France all came together to talk about how we're going to make Mexico pay their debt, because President Benito Juarez, he made a law that banned paying the worldly debt for 2 years. And England didn't like it, Spain didn't like it, and France did not like it. So they all got together, they all came together and discussed on how they were going to get Spain to pay back their debt. They all decided to send fleets and armies to Mexico, but France was the one that took it too far, and they invaded Mexico, primarily around the area of Mexico City. Keep going.
On May 5th, 1862, in a small town in east central Mexico called Puebla, 2,000 Mexican soldiers faced 6,000 French troops at daybreak. Incredibly, Mexico claimed victory by the evening, and Juarez declared May 5th a national holiday.
Now, right? 2,000 men against 6,000 men. That's an extraordinary victory, right? So President Juarez made Cinco de Mayo, the 5th of May, a national holiday to remember this great victory over such a mighty force. You know, France was still powerful in these days and age. No one would think that Mexico would be able to withstand or stand against France. They won this battle, you know, but they lost. They won this battle, but, you know, they did lose a few others. But this battle here really showed the world and France that Mexico could be a force to be reckoned with, could be a problem. Keep going, please.
The battle also played a role in the American Civil War. With the French defeated and leaving North America, the Confederacy wasn't able to use them as an ally to win the war.
See, like what we're talking about earlier, because the France was an ally to the South, right? The France was since before the Civil War, right? There were wars between England and France. One of the wars were called the French and Indian War, where France and some Native Americans were fighting against England and other Native Americans. So France had an investment, had a stake in the so-called, what we call the United States today. They lost that battle. They ended up losing the Louisiana Purchase as well. And to kind of get back at the Union, at the United States, they were siding with the South to help the South. And since they were defeated in North America, And we're learning about the defeat now here against Mexico. It kind of torn that relationship between the south of the United States and France apart. Keep going.
The victory in the Battle of Puebla was a significant morale boost for the Mexicans. The French army, one of the most powerful in the world at that time, was trying to establish a foothold in Mexico. Zaragoza and his troops defeated the much larger and better equipped French army led by General Charles de Lorentz, according to History.com. The victory delayed the French advance toward Mexico City and gave the Mexican government time to prepare for further attacks. The victory also had international implications, as it helped to demonstrate that the French army was not invincible. This indirectly affected the American Civil War, as it discouraged Napoleon III from providing support to the Confederacy. This support could have changed the outcome of that war. Despite the Battle of Puebla's significance, the French victory there did not end the French occupation of Mexico.
It did not. Keep going.
Mexico gained its independence from Spain. The Mexican War of Independence began on September 16, 1810, when the priest Miguel Hidalgo y Costilla made the famous Grito de Dolores, a call to arms for the Mexican people to rise up against Spanish colonial rule. After over a decade of fighting, Mexico finally achieved independence on September 27, 1821, when the Treaty of Cordoba was signed, officially ending Spanish rule in Mexico.
Well, which, before we continue, again, you have to understand that it didn't end Spanish rule. It ended the empire of Spain from having control over New Spain, which is Mexico. Mexico was still under Spanish control because the Spaniards that were born in Mexico, who are still Spaniards, are still ruling Mexico then, like they're still ruling Mexico now. Continue.
Cinco de Mayo is celebrated in the United States and Mexico, but it is a much more significant observance in the U.S.
Yeah, and here in the United States, they're getting white boy wasted on Cinco de Mayo. How do you say white boy wasted in Spanish? Let me Google it. Hold on. Let me Google it. White boy wasted. Chico blanco pedido. I don't say white boy drunk. Hold on. Chico blanco borracho. There we go. White boy wasted. Here in America, everyone's getting Chico blanco borracho. White boy wasted. White boy drunk here in America celebrating Cinco de Mayo. All right, keep going.
While there are Cinco de Mayo celebrations throughout Mexico, notably in the city of Puebla, the event doesn't compare to the celebrations of Dia de la Independencia.
Right, because Dia de la Independencia, Mexican Independence Day, is a much more significant holiday to the country of Mexico because that's where they got the independence from their Spaniard, the Empire of Spain's, their slave masters. Keep going.
The reasons for its popularity in the U.S. are varied. The celebration of Cinco de Mayo began as a form of resistance to the effects of the Mexican-American War in the late 19th century. The holiday gained popularity during the Chicano movement of the 1960s and 70s. Cinco de Mayo is heavily commercialized in the United States, particularly by the food and beverage industries, which promote it as a day to enjoy Mexican food and drinks.
Right? So you get all these good deals off of drinks, right? You know, you got what do you got? You got Jose Cuervo tequila, you got Casamigos, you got Don Julio, you got Patron, you got Hornitos, right? You got the beer Sol, right? You got the beer Corona, you got the beer Tecate, I believe that's what it's called. You got the beer Modelo, right? All these Mexican style beers and drinks are promoted throughout the earth on Cinco de Mayo here in the United States. Tacos galore. You know, people are shoving their face with tacos and quesadillas and guacamole and chips and stuff. People are going, like you saw the first video, the video in the beginning where the children are dancing. Aisha and I were discussing, is that even really Mexican culture? We can say yes, it's Mexican culture because it's been part of Mexico for God knows how long, like the 1700s, the 1800s. But the indigenous people of Mexico didn't dress like that prior to the Spaniards coming, right? Aisha brought up the point that over there in Spain, where bullfighting and bull running is so popular, that many of the bullfighters, the matadors, dress up similarly to how those kids dressed, right? You got a lot of the white Spaniard women with those flowy dresses that are wide in the bottom and have extra. That's popular amongst them. But since the Spanish babies were born in Mexico and they considered themselves Mexican, that, and they were the ruling class of Mexico, that is what the culture of Mexico has adopted. When you think of Mexican culture, you think of the flowers in their hair, you think of the big hats and the designs and the bullfighting outfits, when it's really not Mexican culture, it's Spanish culture. You want to say something?
Yeah, I went to Spain.
You gotta speak up, all right?
I went to Spain, and all that was actually in Spain. That kind of clothing and all that.
Yeah,
And the bull riding and all that is all what you saw right there.
correct.
The French, why were they in Mexico?
The French were in Mexico because once the Spaniards that were in Mexico were able to get independence from mainland Spain, since Spain was responsible for Mexico, Spain would pay the debts, and Spain would use the resources from Mexico to pay any world debts, to increase and strengthen their empire on the global scale. But since now the Spaniards in Mexico are independent, they now have their own debt to the global market due to trade and promises and aid that they received. They have to pay that back. So part of the debt that must be paid back was also to France. Part of that debt that had to be paid back was also to England. And part of that debt they had to pay back was also to Spain. So they struggled trying to pay this global debt that they had to Spain, England, and France. And when Benito Juarez, the president at that particular time, in the 50s, 60s of the 1800s, he put he banned paying the global debt for 2 years because he was trying to strengthen the economy of Mexico. That didn't sit well with France or England and Spain. They wanted their money now. They want to get paid. So all those three powerhouses came together to devise a plan on how to get Mexico to pay back their debt now and not 2 years later. So France, they all came over to like kind of pressure Mexico, but France was the ones that played a big role in invading the land of Mexico and going to war. And that's why France was there. All right. Any questions on the chat you see? Yakat. Shalom to Yakar. Shalom, sis. How you doing? We got Officer Yakaya Allah, a Mexican down in the Rio Grande Valley. What's going on? We got Yashikar Ban Yashikar, the camp leader of Mexico. What's going on, Canal? Let's see what he put there. Pulque, classical, Nahul. I always mess up that word. Occasionally known as acotli or agave wine. Oh, he's talking about the drinks that are popularized. Is an alcoholic beverage made from the fermented sap of the agave, the maguey plant. The water for that. Mexicans drank pulque. That was our drink before the conquest. Damn right. The water to Yashikar Ban Yashikar. He's the camp leader of Mexico. I was trying to get him to join class today, but he wasn't able to. But you hear in spirit. I got you, Ak. So yes. So that's what happened with Spain, England, and France. And that's why France came into Mexico. But don't forget, please, this is very important. The ruling class of Mexico were Spanish babies. Were the descendants of Spanish men, were Spaniards born in Mexico, and their sons married either more Spanish women that came to Mexico, or their Spaniard sons married indigenous women of Mexico. So that bloodline is extremely powerful still in Mexico to this day. That's the ruling class. That's why if you ever watch the TV show Narcos Mexico, a lot of those ruling class, and the politicians, the majority of them are descendants of Spanish babies throughout the centuries. That's what they are. You got to speak up.
So this is why they speak Spanish?
Yes, of course. This is why Mexico speaks Spanish, because the Spaniards spoke Spanish and they ruled Mexico, Guatemala, Cuba, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. They ruled Honduras, Nicaragua, Venezuela. They ruled Argentina. They ruled Ecuador, Peru. This is why all those countries speak Spanish, and the ruling class of those people are the descendants of Spaniards till this day. All right, please, if you can return back to the article.
Oh, the article is finished.
Oh, sorry. So I started to think about something. Go back, please go back to the article. Right? And you could share it. And I started to think about, okay, the Battle of Puebla, right? So if you can scroll up and click on the hyperlink for the Battle of Puebla, Battle of Puebla, scroll up a little more. Wait, I think there was one up top. Keep going. There's one, no. Okay, scroll down. Go to the second one you were just at. Right, not that one. That one. Keep scrolling down. I'm looking for the Battle of Puebla, right? Scroll down a little more. Click that hyperlink. There we go. Right? And you can share this.
Every May.
Make sure they can see it. Babu Kasha. Perfect. So I started to think, okay, Cinco de Mayo is not a day of getting chico blanco borracho, white boy wasted. If it's not a day about getting white boy wasted, then what really was it about? It was about the battle in Pueblo, where 6,000 French army men fought against 2,000 Mexican army men, right? So it made me want to go and learn a little bit more about the Battle of Pueblo. Please read.
During the French-Mexican War from 1861 to 1867, an outnumbered Mexican army defeats a powerful invading French force at Puebla. The retreat of the French troops at the Battle of Puebla represented a great moral victory for the people of Mexico, symbolizing the country's ability to defend its sovereignty against a powerful foreign nation. In 1861, Benito Juarez became president of Mexico, a country in financial ruin, and he was forced to default on his debts to European governments.
So see, this is what I was saying that they had such great difficulty paying back their debts to European countries like Spain, England, and France. So he defaulted on them. Keep going.
In response, France, Britain, and Spain sent naval forces to Veracruz to demand reimbursement. Britain and Spain negotiated with Mexico and withdrew, but France, ruled by Napoleon III, decided to use the opportunity to carve a dependent empire out of Mexican territory. Late in 1861, a well-armed French fleet stormed Veracruz, landing a large French force and driving President Juarez and his government into retreat.
So Napoleon III wasn't satisfied with getting the
Cinco de Mayo, or the 5th of May.
Regain some territory that he lost there in the Western. He wanted to regain territory that France lost in the Western Hemisphere. And he thought that this would be a good opportunity to take advantage of the situation and carve out a piece of Mexico for France. Keep going, please.
Certain that French victory would come swiftly in Mexico, 6,000 French troops under General Charles de Lorentz set out in May 1862 to attack Puebla de Los Angeles. From his new headquarters in the north, Juarez rounded up a ragtag force of loyal men and sent them to Puebla.
No, it's okay.
Led by General Ignacio Zaragoza.
Who?
General Ignacio Zaragoza.
Okay.
An estimated 2,000 to 5,000 Mexicans fortified the town and prepared for the assault by the well-equipped French force. On the 5th of May, or Cinco de Mayo, Lorenzes gathered his army and began an attack from the north side of Puebla. The battle lasted from daybreak to early evening. After Lorenzes realized his superior French force was losing far more troops than the Mexicans, he completely withdrew his defeated army. Though not a major strategic victory in the overall war against the French, Zaragoza's victory at Puebla galvanized Mexican resistance and 6 years later, France withdrew. Later that same year, Austrian Archduke Ferdinand Maximilian, who had been installed as Emperor of Mexico by Napoleon in 1864, was captured and executed by a firing squad. Puebla de Los Angeles, the site of Zaragoza's historic victory, was renamed Puebla de Zaragoza in honor of the general. Today, Mexicans and Mexican Americans celebrate the anniversary of the Battle of Puebla as Cinco de Mayo, a holiday in the state of Puebla.
Right? So after learning about this, I started doing some more research, right? And I stumbled upon this particular person. If you can click the next tab and share it. I stumbled upon a person by the name of Don Miguel Gregorio Antonio Ignacio Hidalgo y Costilla Gallanga Mandarte y Villaseñor. Some long ass name. That's what Spaniards did. They put their father's name, or their fathers. They take their father's name, their father's name, their father's name. They take the names of all their parents and grandparents and put it into one name. Right? And I started to think about who was this person, right? And what was his significance to Spanish occupancy of Mexico, right? Read. Just say Don Miguel. Yeah.
More commonly known as Miguel Hidalgo, was a Catholic priest, leader of the Mexican War of Independence, and recognized as the father of the nation.
Because I'm thinking, well, if we spent our lives thinking about Cinco de Mayo being the day of independence for Mexico, and we're learning that Cinco de Mayo clearly is not, then what is the real Independence Day of Mexico, and who were the major players, right? This was a major player in the Mexican War of Independence from Spain, and they consider this priest here, Don Miguel Hidalgo y Costilla, as the father of the Mexican nation. Question. Yes, speak up.
If you're from Spain, are you considered to be white?
Yes.
You're a white man.
Yes. Like him. Just like him. Because he descends from Spaniards. And they're white. Yes. Now, when you go back in history, you learn that people of different colors, like Arabs and black people, our ancestors, the Israelites, ruled places like Spain and France and England for centuries, right? But when the white man rose back to power and took over, Spain was one of the places that he had a stronghold on. So after sending a lot of so-called Negroes into slavery, you see a lot of white people being shown throughout Spain. Like if you can go look up like images of Spain, Spaniards. Let's see who you see on Google. Just a quick Google search. Put Spaniards. Type in Spaniards, and we see what we find out on the images. Can you please share this? Right? You see white-looking people. You see this dark-skinned person here. You see look, that's a Frenchman and a Spaniard. They look the same. They're white. You see more white people. These are the Spaniards. Click that. More white people. This is Spain's national flag, right? Keep going. More white people. Spain is ruled by white people. And in the 1600s, when Spain was coming over to the Western Hemisphere, white people were coming over to the Western Hemisphere. Like white people came over to the Caribbean islands. Like white people came over to Jamestown, Virginia. Like white people came over to Plymouth Rock in Massachusetts. White people were coming from Europe over here due to the transatlantic slave trade and the discovery of the New World, right? So let's go back.
This could be a crowd of white people anywhere in America, right?
Yeah, that looks like what that looks like. Times Square. That looks like Fifth Avenue on St. Patrick's Day parade, just with Spanish flags. Instead of using green and white, they got red and yellow for Spain, right? Go to the chat real quick, see if there's anything in the chat. Mexicans drink, okay. Hola. Shalom to everyone that's joining the chat. Okay. So let's learn about this Spaniard, this white man, right? Please continue.
A professor at the Colegio de San Nicolás Obispo in Valladolid, Hidalgo was influenced by Enlightenment ideas, which contributed to his ouster in 1792.
So he was a priest, a Catholic priest. And we all know how the Catholics, the Jesuits and all of them hated the Enlightenment movement, the scientific Reformation, right? Keep going.
He served in a church in Colima and then in Dolores. After his arrival, he was shocked by the rich soil he had found. He tried to help the poor by showing them how to grow olives and grapes, but in New Spain, modern Mexico, growing these crops was discouraged or prohibited by colonial authorities to prevent competition with imports from Spain. On 16th September 1810, he gave the Cry of Dolores, a speech calling upon the people to protect the interest of their King Ferdinand VII, held captive during the Peninsular War, by revolting against the European-born Spaniards who had overthrown the Spanish viceroy Jose de Iturrigari.
So here, there's conflict already against European-born Spaniards and the Spaniards born in Mexico. And Don Miguel Hidalgo was a Spaniard here in Mexico. Was a Spaniard born in Spain, but came to Mexico, right? Keep going.
He marched across Mexico and gathered an army of nearly 90,000 poor farmers and Mexican civilians who attacked Spanish Peninsular and Criollo elites.
And what?
And Criollo elites.
What is Criollo? What is that? I want you all to keep that word, the Peninsular and the Criollo elites, right? Keep that in mind. That's very important to the Mexican independence and to Cinco de Mayo, the Battle of Puebla. Keep going, please.
Hidalgo's insurgent army accumulated initial victories on its way to Mexico City, but his troops ultimately lacked training and were poorly armed. These troops ran into an army of well-trained and armed Spanish troops in the Battle of Calderon Bridge and were defeated. After the battle, Hidalgo and his remaining troops fled north, but Hidalgo was betrayed, captured, and executed.
Right? So scroll. So here, right, we see, let's go back up. So on May 8th, 1753, Benjamo Nueva Galicia, Viceroy of New Spain. Sorry, I was right in the beginning, and I corrected myself and was wrong when I corrected myself. Click on the Benjamo Nueva Galicia. Right? That's here in Mexico. So he was a Spaniard born in Mexico. He was a Spaniard born in Mexico. And they called those people criollos. Right? Read what it says.
In Hispanic America, criollo is a term used originally to describe people of full Spanish descent.
Of what?
Of full Spanish descent.
So a person we're just talking about Mexico right now. In Mexico, if someone was called a criollo, they are a person that is full-fledged Spanish descent. That means their mother and their father are both Spaniards, but they're just born in Latin America. They're born here in this side of the world. He was born here in Mexico, right? So we're going to learn about his ancestry right here. Please read.
On his maternal side, he was of Basque ancestry.
What?
Basque ancestry.
Basque Spain is a small portion that is always having issues with main Spain. It's located in Spain, and they've been having so much conflict with retaining their own independence and sovereignty in Spain. So his mother was technically still from Spain. Keep going.
His most recent identifiable Spanish ancestor was his maternal great-grandfather, who was from Durango, Biscay. On his paternal side, he descended from Criollo families native to Terupilco, which were well respected within the Criollo community.
So his father was born in Mexico, and his father was born in Mexico, and his father was born in Mexico, but his father was a Spaniard. So these are what the criollos are: Spaniards of full Spanish descent, born here in New Spain, or what we call today as Mexico. Eventually, the criollos became attached to the of Spanish descent. So your father had to be of Spanish descent, right? Keep reading.
Hidalgo's father was a hacienda manager in Valladolid, Michoacán, where Hidalgo spent the majority of his life. 8 days after his birth, Hidalgo was baptized into the Catholic faith in the parish church of Cuiteo de los Naranjos. Hidalgo's parents had 3 other sons, Jose Joaquin, Manuel Mariano, and Jose Maria, before their mother died when Hidalgo was 9 years old. A stepbrother named Mariano was born later. In 1759, Charles III of Spain ascended to the throne of Spain. He soon sent out a visitor general with the power to investigate and reform all parts of colonial government. During this period, Cristobal was determined that Miguel and his younger brother Joaquin should both enter the priesthood and the hierarchy of the Catholic Church. Being of significant means, he paid for all of his sons to receive the best education the region had to offer. After receiving private instruction, likely from the priest of the neighboring parish, Hidalgo was ready for further education.
Okay, we can stop there, right? Yes, look at the next link. Baba Gashav, you can share the next link. Criollo people. Let's learn about them.
In Hispanic America, criollo is a term used originally to describe people of full Spanish descent born in the viceroyalties. In different Latin American countries, the word has come to have different meanings, mostly referring to the local born majority. Historically, they have been misportrayed as a social class in the hierarchy of the overseas colonies established by Spain beginning in the 16th century, especially in Hispanic America. They were locally born people, almost always of Spanish ancestry, but also sometimes of other European ethnic backgrounds.
So keep in mind, we got to keep reiterating this. These people who are labeled this particular way, the criollo, were Spaniards, descendant of Spanish people, or other Europeans that were living here in Latin America. Keep going.
Their identity was strengthened as a result of the Bourbon reforms of 1700, which changed the Spanish Empire's policies towards its colonies and led to tensions between criollos and peninsulares.
A what?
Criollos and peninsulares.
So we saw that before when we were learning about Don Miguel, right? So we know what the criollos are. What are the peninsulares? Who are they?
In the context of the Spanish Empire, peninsular was a Spaniard born in Spain.
What?
Was a Spaniard born in Spain.
A Spaniard who was born in Spain, whereas the criollos were Spaniards born in Mexico or descended from Spaniards born in Mexico. Keep going.
Residing in the New World, Spanish East Indies, or Spanish Guinea. Nowadays, the word peninsulares makes reference to peninsular Spain, and in contrast to the islanders.
So there's a battle going on, right? Between Spain and New Spain, which is Mexico. And in this battle, you have the criollos, who are Spaniards that have just been born and been living in New Mexico, in New Spain and Mexico. And then you have the peninsulares, who are Spaniards born in Spain, but have traveled to come to New Mexico. So you have this battle between the two of them. Keep going.
The growth of local Criollo political and economic strength in the separate colonies, coupled with their global geographic distribution, led them to each evolve separate, both from each other and Spain, or organic national identities and viewpoints. During the Spanish-American Wars of Independence, Criollos like Miguel Hidalgo y Costilla, Simón Bolívar.
Who?
Simón Bolívar.
Now we all hear about Simón Bolívar, right? How he was very famous and pivotal. I always mess up this word. Pivotal in independence of Latin America. He was a criollos, meaning he was a Spanish baby. He was not of ethnic descent on his father's side. He was a Spanish baby on his father's side. What's he saying there?
No, that's nothing.
Okay. Keep going, please.
And Jose de San Martin became Jose de San Martin.
Can you hover over his name, please? Because that's another famous name. Back in Argentina and Chile and Peru. He is also a criollos. He is a Spanish baby. He is not an indigenous person. He is not indigenous to the land here. His blood bleeds white. He's a white baby. Keep going, please.
The word is used today or became the main supporters of independence from Spanish rule in their respective countries. The word is used today in some countries as an adjective defining something local or very typical of a particular Latin American country.
And this is very similar to what happened here in the United States. You have Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson. You got all these founding fathers who are white, English and Scottish and Irish descent and everything, and Andrew Jackson of European descent. You have all these people living in the Union, in the 13 colonies. They're European babies, they're white babies. And they fought against their fathers and their homeland and their father's homeland to get independence from them so they can rule themselves here in this new land. It's the same thing that happened in Latin America, in Mexico and Puerto Rico and Peru and Argentina. You got the descendants of Spaniards, Spanish babies living and born here in Latin America, fighting for independence against their father's homes, Spain. Please continue.
The word criollo and its Portuguese cognate criollo are believed by some scholars, including the eminent Mexican anthropologist Gonzalo Aguirre Beltran, to derive from the Spanish-Portuguese verb criar, meaning to breed or to raise. However, no evidence supports this derivation in early Spanish literature discussing the origin of the word. In Spanish colonies, an Español criollo was an ethnic Spaniard who had been born in the colonies, as opposed to an Español peninsular born in Spain.
So either way, you're still a Spaniard. Please keep going.
Spaniards born in the Spanish East Indies were called insulares. Whites born in colonial Brazil with both parents born in the Iberian Peninsula were known as mazombos.
And the Iberian Peninsula is over there in Portugal and Spain. Keep going.
Europeans began arriving in Latin America during the Spanish conquest. And during the colonial period, most European immigration was Spanish. In the 19th and 20th centuries, millions of European and European-derived populations from North and South America did immigrate to the region. According to church and census registers for Acatzingo in 1792, during colonial times, 73% of Spanish men married Spanish women. Ideological narratives have often portrayed criollos as a pure Spanish people, mostly men, who were all part of a small, powerful elite. However, Spaniards were often the most numerous ethnic group in the colonial cities, and there were menial workers and people in poverty who were of Spanish origin throughout all of Latin America. The criollos allowed a syncretism in their culture and gastronomy, and they, in general, felt more identified with the territory where they were born than with the Iberian Peninsula. Evidence is their authorship of works demonstrating an attachment to and pride in the natives and their history. They sometimes criticized the crimes of the conquistadores, often denouncing and defending natives from abuse. In the colony's last 2 centuries, criollos rebelled in response to the harsh suppression of indigenous uprisings. They allowed the natives and the mestizos, which are indigenous and European mixed, to be schooled in the universities and art schools, and many natives and mestizos were actually notable painters and architects, mostly in the Andes, but also in Mexico. The mixed religious or secular music appears since the 16th century in Spanish and indigenous languages. Baroque music is imported from Spain, but with European and African instruments such as drums and congas appears. The Spanish also introduced a wider musical scale than the indigenous pentatonic, and a melodic and poetic repertoire transmitted by writings such as songbooks. Common of it is the sung voice. Common in the European Baroque music, the mixed aesthetics are the fruit of diverse contributions, indigenous African and especially Spanish and European. Instruments introduced by the Spanish are the tirimillas, sackbuts, dulcians, orlos, bugles, violas, guitars, violins, harps, organs, etc., along with percussions that can be indigenous or African.
You can hold on, scroll down a little more. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Right there to the criollos and the Wars of Independence.
Until 1760, the Spanish colonies were ruled under laws designed by the Spanish Habsburgs, which granted the American provinces broad autonomy. That situation changed by the Bourbon reforms of the 1700s during the reign of Charles III. Spain needed to extract increasing wealth from its colonies to support the European and global wars it needed to maintain the Spanish Empire. The crown expanded the privileges of the Peninsulares, who took over many administrative offices that had been filled by criollos. At the same time, reforms by the Catholic Church reduced the roles and privileges of the lower ranks of the clergy, who were mostly criollos. By the 19th century, this discriminatory policy of the Spanish crown and the examples of the American and French revolutions led criollo factions to rebel against the Peninsulares.
Yep.
With increasing support of other castes, they engaged Spain in a fight for independence, 1809 to 1826.
So pause it right there, right? So it said, with increased support of other castes, right? So people who weren't born of pure Spaniard descent, what do poor Black, Hispanic, and Native American people like to do? We follow our oppressors. We join the bandwagon of our oppressors. When our oppressors are being hurt, we hurt. When our oppressors go to war, we got to go to war for our oppressor. And when 9/11 came around, you had Black, Hispanic, and Native American people wanting to go fight the war. When you had World War II and World War I, what did you have? You had Black and Hispanic people wanting to go fight the war. When you had the Civil War here in America, what do you have? You had Black people wanting to go fight the war for their slave master in the South and fight the war to be free and fight for freedom in the North. We always love to follow our oppressor because we think that our oppressor will one day look upon us with gratitude and appreciation and take care of us, which never happens. So here, the criollos, who are Spaniards born in Mexico and ruling Mexico, they got the so-called half-breeds to join them. They got the one-quarter breeds to join them. They got the poorest of the poor to join them. They got people like the Zapoteca Indians, like President Benito Juarez, who was the president during the Battle of Puebla. They got people like him to join the cause of the criollos to fight against Spain and the Peninsulares, who were Spaniards born in Spain but now living in Mexico. Keep going.
By the 19th century, the discriminatory policies of the Spanish crown and the examples of the American and French revolutions led criollo factions to rebel against Peninsulares. With increasing support of the other castes, they engaged Spain in a fight for independence. The former Spanish Empire in the Americas separated into a number of independent republics. The word criollo retains its original meaning in most Spanish-speaking countries in the Americas. In some countries, however, the word criollo has, over time, come to have additional meanings, such as local or homegrown.
So when you look at this, it'll tell you more about the names means over the centuries and today. Scroll down some more, please. Right. Okay, stop. Okay, this is what I want to do, right? I want you all to think. Okay. Since the Mexican Independence War, right, against Spain happened, where did those criollos go? Where did they go? Did they just disappear? Did they just stop having children and vanish like they want us to believe of the Mayans? Aisha?
They took control of Mexico and run it to this day.
Well, hold on. But what about the Peninsulares? Where did they go? Did they leave and go back to Spain? Or did they stay in Mexico? Where'd they go?
They also run Mexico to this day.
They what?
They also run Mexico to this day.
Hell yeah. You think these white boys left Mexico after they achieved independence? No. The criollos and the peninsulares still lived in Mexico. After this war of independence, they stayed in Mexico. Did they die out? No. They kept growing themselves, having families, marrying into getting women of indigenous descent, right? So this is the trick, right? I was trying to do some research on this, and we'll just do some research together, right? Let's just look up, right? Presidente Benito Juárez. What is his ethnic background? Is he a criollo, or is he a peninsulare, or is he, actual real Mexican?
That looked like a Mexican right there.
Right? That looked like a Mexican, but you can't just go based off looks, right? Because you got Spaniards sexually assaulting and marrying indigenous women and having children with them. And you don't necessarily have to come out looking like your father or your mother. The phenotype can vary, right? So he could be a Spaniard, or he could be indigenous to Mexico. Let's see what we can learn about him.
Born in Oaxaca to a poor rural indigenous family and orphaned as a child, Juarez passed under the care of his uncle, eventually moving to Oaxaca City at the age of 12, where he found work as a domestic servant.
So the 26th president of go back, stay up. The 26th president of Mexico, Benito Juárez, states that he was born in Oaxaca to a poor rural indigenous family, right? Just scroll down some more. Keep scrolling. Go to early life and education, right?
Benito Juárez was born on March 21st, 1806, in the village of San Pablo Huelatao, Oaxaca, located in the mountain range since named for him, the Sierra Juárez. It was a small settlement of about 200 inhabitants made up of straw huts and a small church, the village being located at the edge of a mountain pond known for its picturesque transparent waters and called La Laguna Encantada, the Enchanted Pond.
Don't you ladies love that? How romantic is that? Don't you ladies want to go to La Laguna Encantada, the enchanted pool? This sounds so romantic, right? This is where he grew up. Keep going, please.
His parents, Brigida Garcia and Marcelino Juárez, were Zapotec peasants.
Well, what?
Zapotec peasants.
What is that? Let's see what it is. Let's see what his parents were.
The Zapotec are an indigenous people of Mexico.
A what?
An indigenous people of Mexico.
So the 26th president of Mexico, who they give such great honor to for winning this war against the French, he's what?
A Zapotec peasant.
And what are the Zapotec peasants?
Indigenous people of Mexico.
So the 26th president of Mexico, Benito Juárez, was an indigenous man, a real Mexican, right? Keep reading what it describes his parents as, please.
He described his parents as indios de la raza primitiva del país.
Indios de la raza primitiva del país. What does that mean?
Indians from the primitive race of the country.
Niggas. That's what he's saying. We're niggas. Because when Spain and Portugal came over here, they called the indigenous people negras de la terra, the Negroes of the land, right? They were the Indians from the primitive race of the country. So Benito Juarez, he was an indigenous man. Let's look up who's the current president of Mexico today. Look at this guy right here. Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador. Click on him, please. Let's find out. Let's read the top part.
Andres Manuel López Obrador, born November.
So before you continue, he looks. Please pull up a picture of George Bush Sr.
Huh.
Put up a picture of George Bush Sr. Let's see. Right? Look at this image. Look at this image there. Now look at this other image. I don't know. Is that stretching it? Like, give me another. Put up. Who's another? Nixon, Reagan. Let's see. Give me another president.
Jimmy Carter.
Pull up Jimmy Carter. Let's see what Jimmy Carter looks like. Put up. Go up to the right. Pull up that image. Look at this image here, right? Just look at it. The facial features and the nose, the ears. Go back now. Go to the other image and look at that. The chin, the nose, the ears are different, right? Am I just stretching it? Am I just just making a controversy? Is this controversy right now? Conspiracy theory?
This definitely looks like the old sheriff that'll pull you over in Louisiana,
right?
Back road.
It looks like the sheriff from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, that is gonna hang you with the lynch squad because you're in his sundown town, right? Let's read a little bit about him.
Born in Tepetitan, the municipality of Macuspana in the southeastern state of Tabasco, López Obrador earned a degree in political science from the National Autonomous University of Mexico, following a hiatus from his studies to participate in politics. You want me to scroll down to his early life?
Yeah, now scroll down to his early life.
He was born in Tepetitan, a small village in the municipality of Macuspana in the southern state of Tabasco, on 13th of November, 1953. He is the firstborn son of Andres López Ramón, son of Lorenzo López and Beatriz Ramón, and Manuela Obrador González, Tabasco and Veracruz-based merchants.
They were what?
They were merchants.
Okay. Now read the next three sentences, a little slowly.
His younger siblings include José Ramón, José Ramiro, Pedro Arturo, Pio Lorenzo, and twins Candelaria Beatriz and Martín Jesús. His maternal grandfather, José Obrador Revuelta, was a Cantabrian who arrived as an exile in Mexico from Ampuero, Spain, while his maternal grandmother, Ursula González, was the daughter of Asturians.
Now, if you don't know anything, you're like, damn, he's a Spaniard, right? You look at that image, you think he's a Spaniard. But read the next line.
Through his paternal grandparents, López Obrador is also of indigenous and African descent.
Now you gotta scrutinize that sentence, right? It says through his paternal grandparents, he is also of indigenous and African descent. Now I ain't trying to go through the man's skeletons, but how far back in his paternal line? Right? But just face value, right? Boom. Let's look up another president. So let's just say he is a indigenous Mexican, but on his paternal line, they're Spaniards. They're criollos. No, They would be considered peninsulares because they're from Spain and got exiled to Mexico. Who's this?
His predecessor.
Okay, let's find out about his predecessor. What's his name?
Enrique Peña Nieto.
Wasn't he the guy? When did he rule? He sounds like some guy that I learned about on watching Narcos Mexico. Go ahead. Let's read the little bit about him.
He's a Mexican former politician who served as the 64th president of Mexico from 2012 to 2018.
Go down to early life and education.
Enrique Peña Nieto was born on 20th of July, 1966 in
You okay?
Yeah.
Take your time. And the white man don't want this information to come out.
In Atlacomulco, state of Mexico, a city 55 miles northwest of Mexico City. He's the oldest of 4 siblings. His father, Gilberto Enrique Peña del Mazo, was an electrical engineer. His mother, Maria del Perpetuo Socorro Ofelia Nieto Sanchez, was a school teacher. He's the nephew of 2 former governors of the state of Mexico. On his mother's side, Arturo Montiel. On his father's, Alfredo Mazo Gonzalez. He attended Dennis Hall School in Alfred, Maine during 1 year of junior high school in 1979 to learn English.
Stop. Let's see if we can do some research, right? Because I always end up doing this, and I'll be amazed at how far back we can probably go. Wait, no. Stop right there. Highlight his father's name, Gilberto Enrique Peña del Mazo, and Google search his name. Wait, go back to the first one. Residency. His father. Right? Does Google search him? Let's click on that. Born on. Let's click on his father's name. We're going back, boy. Woo! We're late 1800s now. Let's read that. Hold on. Oh, before you click it, Castella Academy, State of Mexico. He married Juan and Villa. They were the parents of at least 8 sons. Mexico. Go back. Yep. What does it say? Wait. Hold on. Move away from there. Hold on. I gotta get close to the TV for this. Y'all can see this, but I can't. Hit share this tab. So this is his great grandfather on the paternal lineage. Okay, son of Antonio Peña and Maria Manuela. Move away for 1 second. Father of, okay. Does it say where? Scroll down 1 second. Okay. Peña's town, birth of Soto Peña. Okay, click on his father's name. I'm trying to see. They normally would give like the location on where they're born. Okay, click on does it give the father?
It's not showing his father.
Yeah, father. Oh, no, it's not.
We reached the end of the line.
Yes. Damn. No way. You can't. The trail goes cold. Wait. 1823. First. And yeah. Humor me. Click view complete profile. Will they give us something? Ah, damn. Oh, man. Oh. Google last name Peña. Google the last name Peña.
How common that name is?
This is like, where does the last name Peña come? Because this right here, this person that we can't go back, he was born in 17 something, right? It's a Spanish name. Peña history, crest, and coats of arms. Click on that. This is the Spaniard crest of arms for Peña. In Castile, north central Spain. I don't know. It sounds like he's a descendant of white people. That's what I'm going. That's what I'm concluding.
It looks like he's a descendant of white people.
You know what I'm saying? Like his father, we went all the way back to as far as we can to his earliest known paternal father, born in 1763, I think. We can't go back any further than that.
The other cat didn't have all that. He just had his parents, and they were poor peasants.
Yep, right.
He didn't have any.
He didn't have any of that. And he was born after this person's ancestor.
Yeah.
Listen, we can do one more just for fun. Put up who's the 50th Mexican president?
The 50th?
The 50th, right? But that's the 64th, right? Who's the 50th? What's his number?
51st.
51st. Share that tab, Baba Shaw. No, you can do the 51st. Oh no, leave this guy. Share this tab. Share this tab. So this is the 50th president of Mexico. Listen, on your own time, you should, if you're bored, if you're not doing anything, instead of going on Instagram and TikTok, do a little research. This is the 50th president of Mexico. I'm always entertained whenever I get to do this because I'm like, damn, who's this?
This is Abelardo Rodriguez Lujan.
Lujan, right? Let's look at his early life.
He was born on May 12th, 1889 to a poor family in San Jose de Guaymas, Sonora.
Here we go, another poor family, born in 1889, right?
When he was 11 years old, he briefly attended school in Nogales, Arizona. There, he was attacked by two older American boys named Owen Walker and Don Herrera due to anti-Mexican sentiment. He was in line one day when Herrera got in front of him and Walker behind. Herrera gave Rodriguez a sharp shove, throwing Rodriguez on top of Walker.
That's not the information we want. We want to know who his daddy is. Where's his daddy at? What's the name of his daddy? Scroll. Let's see if we can scroll up. Okay, wait, scroll up. Also known, Spanish pronunciation.
Nothing.
This has nothing on who his family is. Okay, go to the who's the 49th president? There's no way. We have to be able to type, like, if you copy his name and put family history.
Yeah, let's see.
Because I just want you to understand that Mexico is still not free. Do you all understand that? Mexico is still not free. Just like the natives here in the United States are still not free. Just like the so-called black man here in America is still not free. So-called Latinos, Hispanics, you're still not free here in America. Let's see. Oh, we gotta create an account. Scroll up. What does it say on the left?
it gives a little rundown, but this is his father right here.
What does it say about his father on the left?
Just that he was 48 when he was born. I shit.
Copy and paste his father's name, Baba Shah. Boom! Look at that. Look at that. Share that. Share that. Share that. Come on, man. Please share that screen. Can you go back to the StreamYard? Listen, I want all y'all who are watching, right? We go. Well, that was the 50th president?
The 50th.
Right? We took the 50th president of Mexico. We found out who his father was. We found out who his father's father was. We found out who his father's father's father was, and this is his father's father's father. Can you please read that name out, Michelle? Who's his father?
Felix Rodriguez.
Felix Rodriguez. That is the paternal lineage that the president of Mexico, the 50th president of Mexico, this is his paternal lineage. When was he born?
1771.
And where was he born?
Zafra, Badajoz, Spain.
This is a criollos. He's a white man. This is a white man. The 50th president of Mexico is a white man. It's a white man. What do you think his children are? If it doesn't matter if he slept with the most dark-skinned woman in Mexico, you are who your father is. If your father's father is a Spaniard, a white man, then you are too. And it's because of things like this, they integrated into the culture. They married the people. They ingrained themselves into all of Mexico, where you don't even think of them as something different. And that is why Mexico is still not free. This is why Mexico cannot be free. You can take that off the screen, Baba Kashan. Listen, we can keep doing this all day long and going one by one and finding the ancestry of each president of Mexico to prove that these are the overwhelming majority of them are Spanish babies, white men ruling over the real Aztecas, the real Zapotecs, the real people of Mexico. Mexico is still not free, and because of holidays like Cinco de Mayo, people don't understand the importance of Cinco de Mayo. People don't understand the importance of the Spanish-Mexican War, the Mexican independence. The reason why Mexico is Mexico today is because Spanish babies ruled Mexico and they're separated from their daddies in Spain. And Spanish babies still rule Mexico. Anything else? Anyone want to add anything? Any questions?
And on the flip side, Sheriff Obrador over here might be a nigga. Right?
He might be. If the 26th president of Mexico, Benito Juarez, he's a nigga. He's born from the indigenous people of the land, of the primitive race of the country. He a nigga. And just make sure you speak up.
The term Hispanic has nothing to do with Spain.
It does. It has everything to do with that whole European side because, like for instance, Latin, or when you look up the derivative of the words and everything, you understand that it was pertaining to or has something to do with the Latins that lived and ruled Rome, just like with the Hispanics in Spain. Actually, let's look up that. You want to say something?
That would basically be like another byword, right?
Yes, it'll be another byword. Let's look before we end class. Let's look up Latinos. The word Latinos, the root word of it, where it comes from, the etymology of it, right? Let's look it up. You can share this, please. Make sure it's on. Can we make sure it's on the screen too? All right.
The terms Latino and Latina originated in ancient Rome.
Where?
In ancient Rome.
So we automatically know when you calling yourselves Latino, you're not Latino. It originates from ancient Rome. We're not Romans. We're not properties of the Romans. We're not possessions of the Romans, and we are not Romans. Keep going.
In the English language, the term is a loan word from American Spanish. Oxford dictionaries attribute the origin to Latin American Spanish. Its origin is generally given as a shortening of Latino Americano, Spanish for Latin American. The Oxford English Dictionary traces its usage to 1946. Latino has its origins in the French term Amérique Latine, coined in the mid-19th century during the Second Mexican Empire to identify areas of the Americas colonized by Romance-speaking people and used to show affinity with French allies during the Mexican Empire, also termed the Mexican Intervention.
Yeah, so we're not Latinos. Let's try Hispanic, please.
The term Hispanic refers to people, cultures, or countries related to Spain, the Spanish language, or Hispanidad broadly. In some contexts, or Hispanidad, a Spanish term describing a shared cultural, linguistic, or political identity among speakers of the Spanish language or members of the Hispanic diaspora.
Which is people coming from Spain. So we are not Spaniards. The indigenous people of the Americas are not Spaniards. We're not Hispanics, and we're not Latinos, Latinas. We're none of that. You want to say something else? No? All right, so with that, listen, Mexico still isn't free. So although everyone was getting drunk and eating tacos, eating that that's that big one? Most popular. They love that pork, man. Our people love pork. What do they call it? The al pastor. They love that al pastor tacos. It was selling like hotcakes yesterday. I guarantee. All them tequila shots and from Casamigos and Juan Jose Cuervo and Don Pablo, whatever, going like crazy because white people love the culture of other white people. And that is why Cinco de Mayo is popular here in the United States, because white people rule Mexico just like white people rule the United States. And white people will celebrate and do whatever they please because they are ruling the earth. And Mexico still isn't free. I'm Priest Ashagapan of the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding General Yohana. We've been teaching the world the truth of the Bible, that the so-called Negroes, that the so-called indigenous people of North, South, Central, and Caribbean America, we are the real Jews of the Bible. We are the 12 tribes of Israel. We are the only race of people that God loves. And this is what we've been proving and teaching throughout the earth since 1969. Joining me today, helping me hold down the class, was Priest Aishaya Allah, the water from coming here, and Trooper Salakia, and Trooper Sha'athwan here in the building as well. Before we go, any questions, any comments, last minute comments? No? Listen, the white man is the most diabolical beast on the face of this earth. Shalom.
Clap it up for the class. I imagine.
You can clip it.
You're going to give one.